We'll get going.
Yep.
All right, good morning. Not much on my agenda, Benny will be happy for that. Melridge, the modular, the roof was replaced yesterday by Roberts Roofing. Everything went well. They took off the old rubber membrane roofing. The walkway that's adjacent to the modular roof, the modular classrooms, there was some plywood that had rotted over the years. That was 6 sheets of plywood was removed. Everything was battened down correctly, and we are good to go. We had talked last Buildings and Grounds meeting. We had a few panes of glass over in the Buckeye Library area. One was installed back in early October. The other one arrived last week, and it was actually installed last week as well. So those broken panes of glass have now been corrected. That work was done by Euclid Glass. We did discover through a email through a teacher at Riverview, we did have a cracked interior pane of glass. I did have 6 City come out. They did the work for the glazing here for the vestibules. They took measurements, they determined what type of glass it is, and they're going to order it. I did receive an email this morning with the proposal. It's roughly $2,400 to replace and install. That's going to take 3 to 5 weeks for it to come in and be installed.
That's warranted, right?
I didn't even look at that. I was just trying to get it done as quick as possible. I did reach out to the company that did do the work, and they refused to contact me back after 3 attempts.
Yeah.
But I will look again.
I mean, just the manufacturer, manufacturer's warranty on the window.
I will look into the manufacturer's warranty and see if there's anything there for us.
Yeah.
I was more worried about getting it replaced, so we didn't have any.
It's inside though?
It is inside, yes.
Yeah, most of the time they're gonna say someone broke,
They're gonna say something to the fact of building shifting. They're gonna
Yeah.
say it was bumped into.
Right.
The glass does not have any potential to break inward towards the teachers and the students because it is a laminate, so it's not going anywhere. It's just we want to have that secure on the first floor. So that is in the works. I did give them, like I said, a verbal this morning that we're moving forward, and I did put in for a purchase order. Since last meeting, last month in October, we've addressed numerous roof leaks. I think we were up to 13. That was between John R., the high school, the field house, and Parkside. Those were addressed by Roberts Roofing. We did find an issue of the leak at Parkside that had been addressed. We have another issue that has been ongoing since I have been here long before I became a member of this community. We do think because of the roofing rolls up flashing wise, it is delaminated. So the thought process is that it's taking in water somewhere on the roof, on the wall side, and getting down and delaminating it.
Top of the coping on the wall.
Correct. It's
Common
not.
problem.
So we are going to do a water test. Now is not the time of the year to do the water test, but it is not a constant with rain. It's always when we get a driving rain from a certain direction, which is more and more pointing towards we may have to do some sort of waterproofing or another solution for that.
I can look at it with you too, because the wind direction of a rain, like you said, is it coming in possibly the top of a wall? Is it coming in where the metal on the top is moved just a little bit?
It's not there. It's a good 7 feet above where it's battened to the wall.
Yeah.
We think it's hitting the brick and it's coming down and get back.
Right.
Everything on that roof is tight except that one section, and it's
How many feet would you say that is?
I'd say about 10 feet wide.
I mean, you just cap it with some material, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe cut a regulate in it and then
Yeah,
drape it over.
yeah, block it off.
The curtain, the gym divider curtain at Lamuth was installed last week. It looked great when it was down. It is currently in the rolled up position. Maintenance is in the process of connecting the power and the manual switches to raise and lower the curtain, so that should be done in the next week or so. And that'll be operational for the teachers to use. We did approve the fencing for the retention ponds at Parkside and Riverview. The purchase order was approved and sent over to Glenn Thomas of Thomas Fencing. He is ordering the components of the fencing to go in. He did say that it would be a December, January completion date, all weather dependent, but that's what he's looking at right now for that to be completed. Maintenance is in the process of putting away and making the last minute grass cutting efforts and putting the mowers away. Getting snow blowers prepped, ice melt, and salt spreaders have already been delivered to the school in preparation of the winter season. Over the winter, when we do have some downtime, we will be stripping down mowers, weed whackers, blowers, edgers, you name it, and just cleaning up carburetors, sharpening blades, changing oil, putting everything back together and having it ready for the spring. Other than that, we have the CTE building update and the Riverview CMR update.
Do you want to talk about the CTE, what we're talking about? or-
Yeah, so CTE update, we have two proposals that we got some costs on. One from TDA, kind of went directly onto the building. That came in at 2.5 mil, which is over the 2.1 estimate for estimated construction costs, and that is exactly at 4,500 square feet, correct?
Correct.
The,
That includes, we'll have about 3,800 square feet of interior renovations that connect
Mhm.
to the main hallway, and reconfiguring the bistro and commons area to get to that addition. That's the same in both the two options that we're looking at.
One of the things that this committee asked that we bring back is some alternates and some options. If we go with this plan and kind of tap into it, one of the alternates and options that kind of makes sense to us is to look at doing windows around that general vicinity area, as well as looking to put HVAC into the cafeteria, the common. Well, we need to do something with the commons because we were taking out air conditioning there. They have window units. So kind of upgrading the air conditioning around there and potentially even tying it into the choir room, which that we do need to replace. We put that off for a year, depending on what this project would look like. So that was kind of one of the things that we would like to get some pricing for as well.
That's not included?
To bring back, no, that is not included. That is just for the renovation of the commons, the interior space, as well as kind of stretching into then the CTE wing itself.
When you talk about the commons, can you what is
It's the
that?
room next to the cafeteria.
The small one?
Yes.
Okay.
We found out that you have that bistro there, and then that little, I don't know what the room next to it is, part of that wall is structural.
Yes,
That's
so
apparently from a-
Yeah, I think they're using that as the CARES closet
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now.
And apparently part of that is actually structural from a prior addition. I think there was only one story there at one point. I think they
Yeah,
said there.
that was the library 100 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, the library
So-
years ago.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
don't.
So that's, so the other addition, Mr. Keeney kind of looked at going back a little bit farther off the back, that came in a little bit higher right now and I know that they're working on pricing for that. That was at 3.1. It was a little larger in terms of square footage, which is a little bit more ideal for the construction lab. I did talk to Roger specifically saying that even if we could add space to Ryan's drawing as well to make that construction lab of equal size, and it would still be a little bit less than the 3.1 million that came in for the second drawing estimate.
Who gave you that estimate?
The second drawing's 3.1, but how many square feet is it?
That was what, 30?
Well, it's 10,121 total, which includes, it's a 6,321 square foot
Six-
addition.
6,321
Yeah.
compared to 4,500?
Yes.
Who gave you that price?
4,560.
Those both came from Cleveland Construction's estimators.
Oh, okay. Not
And
TDA.
Yeah, no, the TDA sent the drawings to Cleveland Construction,
Oh.
Roger and Cleveland Construction went through the estimation.
So they sent both, TD sent both?
Yeah.
Okay.
now, just a thought here. Just quick math, 4562 to 6321 is about 40% more. The cost from 2.5 to 3.1 is 20-some% more. So the dollars we're spending for the square footage, it appears like it's it's efficient and effective. So the reason for the 6321 compared to the 4562 is what?
So, some of the different design characteristics on the outside, kind of the way that it moves through, according to Roger. According to Roger, if we made the other one, the 63, the same size, it would actually be cheaper than the 3.1. It would still come under 3.1. That was some just discussions I had with Roger on Friday.
It would be cheaper than 3.1?
It would be, to make the other one a little bit bigger.
Yeah, the first one's 555 and the other one's 150 square foot.
4,562 and 6,321 square feet.
Yeah. But that doesn't, I mean, that's just included, that's just cost per new square foot. It doesn't include stuff that's going on.
Right, cost per square foot, right, a little bit more efficient, right? And so, now the air conditioning, are you in the process of getting pricing?
We
For
can,
the
I
commons?
wanted to have the kind of the talks with this group about should we pursue that. We can, Roger thinks it would be most efficient to do it as a separate unit. Instead of tying into the one rooftop unit on the CTE building, would be a separate rooftop unit. That we absolutely can look at getting some quotes as part of the project and
Yeah,
scope.
so, yeah, that's what Roger said, so going back, I haven't had any discussions with him about this for a long time, but just an initial look at it, and hey, what's it look like? When I talked with Ryan Schmidt at TDA, he said the effectiveness and efficiency of the air conditioning unit would go into the cafeteria, but everything else would have to be on its own separate. So they're saying the same thing,
Basically.
yeah. Because he was saying the best use of dollars would be to air condition the cafeteria, but then from there, you're adding on dollars, if you will. You're not gaining any efficiencies, you're just adding work.
I think depending on the drawing, it would depend on where you put that unit. With the one that's directly connected to the building, I think you could go with the cafeteria potentially, but it's also, if you're gonna do both spaces, the cafeteria and the commons, you're better off probably getting two separate units, but using the same contractor and kinda.
Right, so it's a
Using-
question,
Yeah.
how far do we want to go, and
Yeah.
all that, so,
And
okay,
something we can also price out as an alternate.
right.
And at the actual bidding, we can say, hey, we want to spend the extra money, we'll have a dollar amount for that piece.
Right, it would be good to have an alternate, right? And then,
Can I just throw something out that, also, we had budgeted 2.1 for construction costs. So even at 2.5, we're slightly over. We're gonna have to do some value engineering on that design.
Because of the furniture and equipment.
Yeah, and we are taking on some of that. Like, that was part of what we had agreed to, but there are some, you know what I mean, like some furnishing things and some equipment things that we agreed to purchase, so we have to get it down. That's what we have in the grant to pay for this, just so everybody's aware. When we're looking at numbers, that's actually where we're sitting. So anything that we would, construction costs be over that, would be incurred district-wise.
So the number that I understand is $400,000 over and above the 2.1 was for furniture and other items.
Yeah, equipment, you know, a lot of machining, actually, mostly furniture we're doing, but mostly equipment for machining and stuff
Okay,
like
so help me understand, because I understood the grant was 2.5.
that. It is. So 2.1 was for construction, 400 for equipment, so
Okay.
that gets us to the 2.5.
Right, so this number, 2.5, is for construction only, so we would add the 400 to that, it would be 2.9 then.
Correct, so that's what I mean, at that number, we still have to value engineer back construction
Right,
costs.
and then the 3.1, you had 400, let's just say, and it's 3.5.
Yep, exactly.
But I think as we were discussing this over, since the grant was had and what it would look like, I think that we generally were looking at $1 million would probably be acceptable as added money.
And that, well, and I know that's what we had originally talked about, I didn't know where we are financially, because we've made some other decisions,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
But, my belief is this needs to be done properly, because you want to have a space that's fully usable. I mean, if we're a little tight on the space and it's not fully usable, not ideal. So, having been in construction, my immediate impression, without looking at the floor plan and everything like that, it would be go a little bit bigger.
Well, as would mine. However, I also work with the rest of these guys that are like, yeah, rein it in.
Should
I
we
would
look
like to
with-
know what the administration is recommending on the size, like which version are you leaning towards?
Ideally, it would be a hybrid, it would be kind of Ryan's model with a little bit bigger construction room, kind of scaling that up a little bit. I think that's the ideal setting where that sits. I think it does kind of hit some of our, all of our visions for kind of how you can use the space, not only now, but moving into the future.
So somewhere between 4,500 and 63.
Yes, yeah, adding another couple hundred square feet to that classroom construction, not the lab, I guess it's a lab space. That wouldn't just be, it's not just a shop, it's a true kind of like it's a just open, clean.
open work
An
area.
open work room.
It is,
that you
and
can
then we
do
have a classroom
all
space, you
sorts
know
of
what I mean?
things. So
that
it'd be a
just
classroom and a
happens
big
to-
open room,
Yeah.
and that would be, to make it a little bit larger would be definitely a benefit.
So now the question is, to make it a little bit larger, you have walls, okay? So you have dimensions, length times width and that sort of thing. So what makes sense? So who would you talk with then to?
That would be Ryan, we would just have him kind of bump that out a little bit.
Okay, so who's been talking with him to get what you're looking for?
So we have had some conversations with Ryan and Roger as well to kind of get some pricing. And Mr. Keeney asked to put our design meetings on hold until pricing came back. We kind of got some pricing, and now we're taking the next step as to, we need to set up a new one. to kind of
So
go
you're
through.
working on that?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's gonna be probably not the lowest, maybe not the highest, but it's either gonna be the highest or a little smaller. And you're gonna be dialing that in.
we need to dial that in and kind of move forward. The other thing would be the options that we are kind of adding to it. So we'll
So-
so we should bid an alternate for air conditioning to as much of, kind of different phases throughout, or, I mean, at least for me, a win is the commons and the cafeteria, and then replacing the choir room.
There's
with the
always
same
a
air
wish
conditioning.
list.
Yeah.
So, let's get the numbers, right?
Okay.
So we can see where we are and what we can get done.
Okay.
Are we gonna partition walls or put in real walls?
Real walls. Because the classroom space, sorry, Nick, he's so mad at
I
me.
told everyone to sit up front, but
I didn't
that's
think I was
neither
gonna
here
have to
nor there.
talk. We need a dedicated classroom space in there because of the equipment and the construction that'll be going on. We have to have permanent walls that go around there. That's at least how we're designing it. So there will be permanent walls, classroom space in there for that purpose, to protect that. You know what I mean, like the 3D printers and any machines that we
Right,
buy
okay.
need to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
away from the dust.
Right, and so we have a 50-year building, if you will, a 50-year use, so we want to do it the right way. And we want it to be as permanent as possible, because making adjustments as you go is a waste of time typically. So, yeah, let's get what we need.
Well, and then where, kind of being in the hub in the center, if you would, of the school, kind of having that tie into the commons, it allows us to expand our CTE offerings slowly with that classroom. So if we were to ever offer, it's not cooking, there's a.
Culinary.
Culinary, if we were to offer culinary, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want a food truck.
It's
but
the
if we were-
fancy name. All he wants to do is drive a food truck.
I would love to have a Riverside food truck. I think that's a great idea. But if we ever to offer culinary, the classroom is a walk off of the lab, which would be the kitchen at the time. If we remodel the kitchen, we can have the walk right to the classroom, right kind of where that design is. So there's still that central hub, and that classroom can be used in multiple ways. Advanced manufacturing, construction, kind of all share that classroom, as well as healthcare. Kind of where we're looking. And two, with that centralized location, it allows us to offer and even open up that space for adult education. It ties to the welding lab, as well as if we wanted to have the community to use the 3D printers or any of that sort of thing, we can have that. We can have our students kind of man that space. So it's a really exciting time to have that and to kind of build that in. So it still brings excitement to
So
this whole project.
I think we're under a time crunch right now, and I'm feeling like we're gonna need to commit to a dollar amount, like ASAP, in order to figure out like where we're headed, because we've got other projects, and how much money are we gonna commit to this while we've got other things that have been voted and passed. Like, if we don't come up with a dollar amount, they're not gonna know what to design, and we're gonna keep spinning our wheels.
What I've heard from today is 3.5 all in, with not including the furniture, which you said we would purchase ourselves.
Well, the 3.5, the 3.1 plus the 400 on furniture would be 3.5.
The 400 is equipment, it's not furniture, so
Or
there's.
Yeah, right, yeah.
equipment, whatever.
The
Now,
furniture, we're already deciding to
The
take out.
furniture, when we wrote the grant, we said we would take that out of our own
Yeah.
funds as well.
How much will furniture be about?
I feel like we said it was probably gonna be,
200.
I think we said 200,000 or 300,000 to furniture wise, easy to, you know what I mean, to do that.
So if we have the big open space, that's gonna probably eliminate some furniture per square foot, if you would, because it's a work area. Right?
Right, yeah,
It's tables that
Yeah.
move, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I'm looking at dollars and efficiency, so I'm thinking it might move it down a little bit.
I don't think it will, you already have that, like, you already figured that, right? Furniture is expensive.
Yeah, I think it was a guess on the amount.
Yes, it was a guess. I mean, I can certainly start to hone that in.
Yeah, see if you can get some pricing, so we can identify a little bit more closely what it would be. I mean, because really now we're talking tens of thousands of dollars difference, right? So if we could identify it a little bit more clearly, it'd be helpful.
I mean, we're talking, and then we're talking alternates for HVAC, and we're, like, what is our all-in price gonna be, and what are we gonna agree to pay for out of PI, because we've got other stuff coming out of PI now that wasn't there when we decided to move forward with this grant.
When, in the PI forecast I presented at the last board meeting, I had set aside 50,000 for. So I set aside 50,000 for like the geotech borings and other site work that might be done, 200,000 for furniture, and then the additional projects, so basically, wherever we go over the 2,025,000, I put in 1.5 million into that forecast, so we have some wiggle room as far as that number.
So that
is,
would
if that's-
include, $1 million and then your alternates perhaps, right? Like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Right, and Gary and I have been talking about this. Ideally, we would like to be moving that down to probably 1.2, but if it, moves to 1.3, but understanding the cost of the furniture is gonna help. Now we're refining the numbers. There's gonna be options on a wish list, and so we're probably another meeting away, because there's gonna be some work needed.
Well, I mean, I get it, but we're also like talking about moving fast forward with Riverview, and I'm trying to
We need
balance that.
I think the first thing we need is we need to settle on design, go from there.
So you're gonna talk, who's gonna talk with
I can call Ryan.
But I mean, Ryan and Roger have to work together on
Yes,
it.
they do.
And what was our drop dead date on, like, we have to have all this design work finished so
So
that
we
they
can
can
start, we're
finish?
already behind.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
We're
we're
already
already,
behind.
right?
Yeah, we have to be, technically, we have to be under contract with everything by June 30th for the grant purposes. We have till 2027 to liquidate the funds, so basically
I
construct.
thought it was 26.
We wrote the grant that we were moving in spring of '26, but there's wiggle room as far as if there's construction delays, but we have to be under contract by June 30th or
Of 25.
of '25.
We should be able to meet that, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, easily. I think I'll reach out to Ryan
So
today.
you're handling that?
I will take care of it.
I would imagine, I mean, they're
To
not
try
gonna
to
say,
get
hey,
us-
we're not gonna give you the money. You're in the middle of a construction project. They
The
wouldn't.
only thing would be is if you're under contract by June, you won't be billed by January.
We'd like to be under contract prior to that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be under
We should
contract
be.
well before
That
that.
would be, yes. Yeah, that would be definitely the goal. I think it's part also in bidding out some of the alternates to get accurate pricing on what those look like. But we will include the alternates in the bid scope.
I mean, if we go to work, and you work with them and get these numbers, you get some numbers, we should be able to finalize this in the next meeting.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like,
December.
it would not be helpful if we can't do that, and if we're gonna use your forecast, your PI forecast numbers, and we're comfortable with that, at least for the time being, what did you leave aside for Riverview in there?
And so I have an update, if we can pass it out, that we worked on in different, because at the last meeting I presented, at the last board meeting I presented what it looked like to finance Riverview. And then
I mean, it doesn't
It was a
pay,
request
at
to
least
look
for me,
at.
it doesn't pay to look at this without looking at the whole picture.
Can I ask one clarification question? So when we talk about a budget for the grant, so when we talk about 3.1 or 3.5, that's what you're saying, stay within that, and then there's alternates on top of that, or
No,
that
that's like your
includes the
alternate.
alternates?
So you have.
I'm confused, I'm
So-
sorry.
So the 3.1, what Chris is saying, the 3.1 in his mind is gonna be a little high, because the 6,300 square feet, he
Hmm.
thinks is gonna be a little high. His goal is to move that down a little bit,
Okay.
okay? So if it gets moved down a little bit, there'll be some money savings, okay?
But even if it wasn't,
So let's keep it there,
Okay,
but
just
the
for
idea
purposes
that
of
it's gonna
discussion.
recede a little bit
Okay,
according to
yeah.
the work that's gonna be done. Okay, so we'll use that as a baseline. You had $400,000 for the equipment, whatever, that you figured was in there. Now you're saying you need to add furniture or whatever.
but that's
Yeah.
already, he's already got that, and that's separate. It wasn't included in the grant.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're looking at refining that number so we can have a clearer number. Because now we're refining and trying to get down to, hey, what's this thing really gonna cost without $100,000 of this the way or that
Right.
way? So we'd like to identify it and say, here's our number. Hopefully, the 3.1 will lower a little. Let's just say it goes to 300. There's 400 built in for the equipment and other things that are gonna be needed. Assume that's gonna get spent.
Okay,
Um,
so those are assumptions, like we're including that.
Assume
like
the
that's what-
400 is gonna get spent
Okay,
at
all right,
400.
okay, that's where, and then there's
So
alternates
you
on
have
top of
three,
that.
you would have basically three, if you wanna look at it that way, plus the 3.4, and now the furniture.
Okay,
You need to dial in, what's the furniture gonna be?
so let's just use 700,000 as a round number, so I understand. So that 700,000, we are committing, like that's a
Well,
no-brainer.
Yeah, so when you say 700, my brain says 600.
Okay, and that's fine, I totally get that. My point is we are committing that, these alternates where you're talking about are on top of that, correct?
So I think that we on a global number, I think that what we are looking at in the ideal situation would be 3.6.
All in,
And all in.
Everything.
All in,
Okay.
and my guess is it's gonna go to 3.7.
okay.
Well, and Gary's already got 1.5 plus 200 for furniture, right? So he's already got 1.
He's 500 over.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, his
Yeah.
forecast for me, that like, if that's what I'm gonna rely on right now, like, all things being equal,
So then.
if he's
we
committed
might
that,
Need to do another one.
okay.
Oh, it's a
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah, that's what I wanted to understand, okay.
On
that's
top
what I
of the
needed.
2.5,
When we were gonna
because
replace.
we committed that out of
Yeah,
his money.
Okay, yes.
We were at 80.
Okay,
Just-
gotcha.
So,
And that
I
That's
think
what I
we're,
needed to understand.
I think we're in the
Oh, no,
ballpark, but
Okay,
like,
good, that's what I wanted to know, we're in the ballpark. Need to do some value engineering, which I'm totally fine with, we've done that before, but that helps me at least
If
right
if we could do 3.6, that would be great. It's my guess we're gonna be at 3.7.
Don't,
It's complicated.
don't sell me short, Mr.
So
Official.
go to work.
I
Right.
will, I am a good bargain shopper.
Okay.
We're gonna buy it all on Black Friday. Save all kinds of money.
I keep looking at
kidding.
your
And you're gonna use the district credit card?
Yes, exactly, it'll be fine.
And we may not do a whole roof then.
Yeah, we get 1% back on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We may have to overrun that.
For the record, we're not.
Chuck,
Okay.
Chuck,
Just wanted to bring that up.
it's cold water.
For the record, you should. You should always use that. Anytime you get your 1%.
Okay, so, turn the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the PI forecast I passed out, the first page, nothing has changed. And full disclosure, if we pay cash, obviously our cash balance goes down, so I probably have to adjust our interest numbers in future years. So the model's not that sophisticated, but that wouldn't really hit till later 26 and 27.
But those numbers would be
Right.
pretty small on the adjustment, right?
It depends. I mean, it's tough to really forecast,
Yeah.
because, you know, when you have to have the cash in hand to commit to something, but then you're holding that cash till it's constructed, so
Yeah.
you're still gonna earn that interest even though
Yeah.
it's showing it's committed. But basically, I adjusted the future projects section in yellow, so everything else above that's was the same from what I presented at the board meeting. what had changed, there's little notes kind of at the bottom on the right side of what had changed. So we removed the Luth bathroom renovation, we took that out. We also removed the energy grant match that we had talked about possibly doing. That has been stalled, and it's one of those things that spending money to get a grant is not, this seems like, for a grant that there wasn't a whole lot of money available for, it just didn't seem like it was worth the $14,000-15,000 to have a study done, to apply for a grant that.
You might not
I-
get.
So where did we move all these things to?
So
We
the-
just took them out.
The Luth bathroom was taken out, and that grant was
Completely.
taken out. The high-quality instructional materials for grades 6 through 8, we bumped that forward to next fiscal year, because that's probably when that will occur. But kept in the 3 through 5 materials, that has to happen this year. Delayed the musical instrument replacement to next year to start, basically, next year meaning July, so it's not like,
Right.
it's next fiscal year, not necessarily next calendar year. And then,
They could still have them for next season.
correct, so it was based
They
on.
would just make it
If
by
they order
purchase
in July,
in
and they-
July.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we still have to get quotes and pricing
Right.
and board approval and all those
Right.
things, so it's gonna take some time anyways. I reduced the Riverview addition amount to $5 million from $6 million based on some discussions I've had with TDA and Roger, but it also depends on what we ultimately design. So it's, right now we're figuring 10,000 square feet at $500 a square foot, so that'll be the $5 million. And then we would utilize, any furniture for Riverview would be purchased in July for 2026. So if we were to pay cash for Riverview, it would really drain our balance down to around $260,000 in the permanent improvement fund. So I kind of want to show that, the option of that.
Which doesn't give us a whole lot of wiggle room for anything that breaks,
Right.
like a boiler or something. I'm just saying,
The,
it's always possible.
the Lamuth bathroom renovation, I agree with moving it out of this year, but I think my question for Rich is, in the downstairs boys' side, you mentioned issues with that system and not getting parts for it.
I've had a conversation with my maintenance guys, and we are bantering back and forth whether or not we want to take this challenge on over the summer and what it would entail. From what we can tell is we do not have enough space between the wall. There's a small void where the components are. There's just not enough space for any of us, unless we went on a hunger strike to get back there and work. So we're thinking of,
I'm thinking the same thing, like, thinking I can do.
Belinda could do it.
Melinda would work, yes, I'm not sure how.
You're going to have to go fix the bathrooms at Duluth, because you're the list.
Anyways, we're thinking about cutting out
I know.
the wall that holds the urinals.
No, he said
We would
no.
remove the plumbing, install new plumbing,
We're not doing that.
put the wall back together, put in urinals with manual flushes, and then do some ceiling work over the summer. And it's something we're considering doing. It's just whether or not we really want to try to tackle that in 11 weeks. But it is something that we are currently discussing. Price-wise, I don't know. Are we smart enough to do it? Yes, we can. It's just we have a lot of things we'd like to accomplish in 11 weeks over the summer. It's just,
We don't have we can't get parts for the old system.
no, we cannot. It's a
Okay.
constant flow, so if you're ever there, you'll hear all of the urinals flush every 15 minutes. So what it is, it's a giant trough of water up top, and it just flows down through the pipes. Antiquated system, it's not energy efficient, and it's something that we would like to change out.
So how much was that, 6? I mean, we took it, I'm
So
trying
it's
to.
200,000 to do both bathrooms, because if you do one with Title IX, you should do the other. Because what you do for one sex, you need to do for the
I mean,
other.
we have $617,000 on this page, on the front page for Lamuth projects, and then I don't see that here, like. I don't know, I'm trying to-
That's current, you got stuff that's already, that includes like the vestibule project, things, that's current fiscal year.
That's
The next year over, it's all grayed out, because
But we
that's.
just took it all out.
That's all unknown. the current fiscal year includes everything
So
that
I'm,
we've
I'm
already
not,
got under contract.
I
And I
think
just took
it's-
it out, but we could put it back in, it's not.
I,
How much was
I think
it?
it's fine to remove, I think we just have to have that conversation, because that's the next thing to break, I think.
Yeah, how much was that?
It was 200 for both,
The initial estimate we got from
Initial
CDA
estimate was 200
per bathroom.
Yeah, for the
So-
Per
full
bathroom.
No, 200.
No, per pair.
Per pair.
So we're gonna do the upstairs one does not have the same system, and I can't figure that out, like why they would one system and one and not in the other, but.
Were they built at different times?
No.
Hmm.
That's what I said.
But it makes sense if we're in there doing the first floor, we should do the second floor as well.
So it doesn't make sense to do one floor and not the other floor.
That is correct.
And that's
So,
for
yeah, so we're
efficiency
not-
of dollars?
Yes.
We're not counting any of that kind of stuff, we're not counting any of the Bialowski report critical things that we haven't gotten to yet. Like, we're not addressing any of that
We could,
at all. And I find that problematic for me.
Which of the Bialowski items do you want to do?
I don't know, that was a huge book of stuff, we haven't really even discussed how.
we've addressed some of them throughout even this summer. We did some of the windows and the doors, most of the doors are both.
There's also no equity and, consideration of Buckeye and Melridge, there's none of that here. And there's no wiggle room to add it in either, so.
Yeah, I'll go
I don't
back
think
to
it's a
my-
very good long range, it doesn't tell the community that we're thinking smartly long range and
That's why
addressing some of the things.
I'm leaning towards we'd still go to the finance review option, having a call date that we can pay off or refinance, sooner than later, but then that allows us the flexibility to still utilize the cash balance that we have for addressing those other needs throughout the district that.
What kind of financing options are we looking at?
I was gonna have Mike Priscilla come in at our December board meeting.
Like
to
what kind of a
but
length of term, are we looking at?
I was looking at the COPS for 20 years because it's a long-term asset of the district. It's an addition. Like we did the media centers back, I wasn't here at the time, but when we did the media center bond issue back in the day in '94, that was a 20-year borrowing to do those additions. So it's kind of along those lines. We can obviously shorten that timeline.
And are we just looking for 5 million?
That is, we've gotten different projections, different amounts. It
Right,
kind of depends on
mean-
what we ultimately decide. So it's,
Not that I want to tie up our resources,
I
but
think the way the
to give us
Riverview-
some flexibility.
the way
would
the
be-
review scope was written, though, we can do work at other legacy buildings as well if we want to put those in as alternates.
I mean, that's the way they write the language, you could,
And kind of identify some of those.
Yeah, so we have about $140 million of needs, and that's part of what this conversation is doing now. It's going in all directions. That's the problem, okay? So now you have $140 million of needs, and how much money do we have to spend? And we're certainly not going to the people for a bond levy. Their taxes just got raised on the property revaluations. I talk with people out there, that it's an immediate response, there's no way, immediate response from people. And so, how do we want to tackle, let's just say, well over $100 million of needs, and right now we've got about $6-7 million in our PI fund. Okay, so where do you want to start?
well, and
So
I don't
think-
know, for me, I'm just thinking, we've committed to Riverview, which ties our hands in a lot of ways, and we did
So
that.
how do you want to go to the overcrowded situation at Riverview and solve that problem without solving the problem?
I think we had a facility committee that actually looked into that and came up with different solutions than we are coming up with here. We're committed to this.
Right,
I
so if
don't-
you put an addition on at Lamouth, how does it solve the overcrowdedness at Riverview?
It certainly
doesn't.
helps our 5-year forecast
Okay,
also.
so again, we're going in a lot of different directions, and nothing has been getting done. The board, as it's presently constructed, wants to get things done, okay? I personally want to get things done, and I don't want to borrow the money for Riverview because we have the cash in hand. Okay, does that draw us down to a closer to a zero balance? Yes, it does. It still leaves us a couple $100,000 for the needs that we're gonna have. We get interest income every month, right?
You'll only get it
Okay,
on,
so we get interest income that we could also add to the PI fund.
you can't do that.
Not all of it, but
You would
a
have to
portion of
transfer
it.
from the general fund. We do allocate interest based on fund balances.
Right,
And so
That's
PI
required.
is getting, the PI fund does get an allocation based on that.
so how much outside, how much money would the PI fund get from interest on an average monthly income?
On this fiscal year, we're projecting about 325,000, is whatever that breaks out by month. But it varies based on month to month because of the way it's property tax.
No, I understand that, but roughly 300,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and so is that included in this forecast?
Yes.
Okay, so how much other interest income that goes to the general operating account could be moved to the PI fund legally?
No,
I mean, you would have to, the
you just do a
interest,
fund transfer.
it'd be maybe, I mean, it's basically, you'd
But
allocate
legally,
interest.
but
to
legally,
general
how
fund.
much that goes into the operating, general fund could be moved to PI?
It would basically be a funds transfer, so it's really open-ended. It
It's
doesn't,
open, and
it's
how,
not,
what's that dollar amount if we use all the interest income for our building needs?
I'd have to look, but it's, I think this year we're projecting somewhere in the 900,000 range.
But that's
already
included
built
in
into
our
the
five-year
financial
forecast.
For the year?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were, and that doesn't include the 325,000,
No.
it goes
Correct.
into the PI fund.
Correct.
So if we looked at approximately $900,000 over a year, right? And we cut that in half, that would be $450,000 in a half a year, logically. So we could look at our $200-some thousand balance, we could add $400-some thousand, we would have $700,000 to work with in the PI fund. That's not gonna put us in a strain at all.
But we didn't account for that in our five-year forecast. We're not doing that.
I know, but we could redo the five-year forecast.
And then we're gonna have to be starting to talk about levies in the general
We
fund.
will not
It's-
have to
It's one or the other.
$450,000 is not gonna.
Over the course of years,
Not
it
gonna push
is.
a levy, okay?
It is.
And it will not push a levy, and also, when you look at the five-year forecast and when we're out, so when is the most likely time that we will have to go to the public for an operating levy?
Based on the current projections, if I remember correctly, in 2027, we go below our 90-day cash balance policy, so the policy says 2 fiscal years ahead of time, which is the current fiscal year, we need to start talking about what action we're gonna take to mitigate that, to get back to that 90-day cash balance. So realistically, you're probably looking at 2026.
In the fall, November?
Probably, we might want to consider May, but I would say fall 26 would probably be a target, but obviously, the forecast change, and as we make decisions, we'll adjust those numbers as we go.
Right. So generally speaking, it would be November of '26. That's where we are now.
That, based on,
Calendar.
where we're.
Right. And the thought was that possibly May of '27, but that's probably not gonna happen, right?
I won't commit to either way, but I would say, because things are always.
It's possible.
But yeah.
It's possible it could go to May of '27, but right now it looks like it's November of '26.
And that's without taking additional dollars out of the general fund.
And that's where I'm going to. So if we take these dollars and utilize them, that's not gonna change the time that we have to go to the public for the operating levy. That will not change.
It's
Okay.
been my experience in 15 years that this community doesn't support operating levies. They'll support facility levies, but they have a hard time with operating levies. You'd be hard pressed to get those dollars. It would be easier to ask for building money.
Well, it's
I
been
mean,
my
money
experience.
is money. Like, if
Yes.
you're gonna ask the public for money,
Well, it's been my experience since I've been on the board that the public voted 76% no on facilities.
they
money.
didn't like that plan. And they had somebody who was actively working against it. I'm just saying that
Okay, so,
statistically
but to your
speaking,
point,
we have gone
supporting
years.
facilities over operating, that's not been the recent experience.
We have gone years without having operating support, years, and that sucked. I'm just gonna put that out there. That was the worst period of this district, when you had to go in and you couldn't get operating levy money passed. We had to cut busing, we had to cut extracurriculars, we had to cut things that went to the heart to people, and they didn't care.
And do you know why they voted no?
I have no idea. They didn't want to get taxed for operating dollars.
I mean, did that have anything to do with the people saying, don't buy something, and the
No.
district bought it?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay.
No, that was always when they kept saying, oh, teachers make too much money, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing that. It was all over the board.
So we can't control whether the people are gonna vote yes or no, but what we can control is how we take care of the district. And unfortunately, for the last 15 years, this district has not taken care of itself,
I don't
because
agree
we have
with
a
that.
$98 million report saying that we didn't take care of the buildings. Okay, now we're starting to take care of things, and the only way you can take care of things is to spend the money. If you put everything in, if you put the money into the general operating account, and it gets spent without the buildings being taken care of, the situation gets worse and worse every year. We are in a dire situation right now to where we have well over $100 million of specified needs, and we have nowhere near the money to handle that. So we need to start taking care of things one thing at a time. And if you don't take care of them one thing at a time, they just keep piling up and getting to be a bigger problem.
Our main focus is supposed to be educating young
Exactly.
people. And if we are taking
Yes.
money out of the educational priorities and out of the general fund, which is what that's supposed to pay for, I have a hard time with that.
Well, educational.
I'm not gonna agree with that.
The educational requirements means you have to have the buildings in which you can teach kids. Right now at Riverview, we're minus 3 classrooms. And it's only a 5-year-old, 6-year-old building. How did that happen? And what has been done for the future planning to take care of that? Nothing. We are now addressing that, okay? And so, it's my opinion, we're gonna pay cash for the Riverview addition. We have the cash, and here's the report, the cash is here.
So basically what I'm hearing is that because it's your opinion, basically, we're gonna pay cash for this. So folks, we might as well get used to the fact that we're probably gonna pay cash for this.
Okay,
That
so,
goes against everything that I feel like, Gary, that you have worked for and trying to make our general fund and our PI fund last us. That goes against everything that we have talked about for years and years about trying to make levy dollars last. I don't agree. So
So-
let's just move on from that.
okay, so right now we have a balance of 268,000 of a cash balance.
That would be at the end of fiscal year 2025.
Right.
Based on this
And,
projection.
and we can also take a look at, we had a balance, if I remember correctly, well, we have interest money, as you said, which would be about $900,000. That does go into the general fund, but if we took the $900,000 to address our needs that we have and spent that money, that's not gonna make any difference on when we have to go for an operating levy. I mean, $900,000 is just not gonna make a difference. Would you agree with that?
No. I mean, I
So
it all-
you think $900,000 would change from November, going to, in November for an operating levy of 26? That would change
A
going in
one-time
November?
transfer would not change when we're going on the ballot, but it's expediting our cash balance below our board policy that says that we should maintain a 90-day cash balance.
So
We'll
that-
have to be talking about that right now.
So what you're saying is we have a policy that we need to discuss it. When it goes below that, we need to then discuss the planning of when the levy would go
2
on.
years
I mean, it
prior.
says we shall take appropriate action, which includes either levies or making budget
Right,
cuts.
right, and
Or
so.
both, you know.
Right, and so if we need to plan to put a levy up, we're already talking about that. It looks like it's gonna be in November of '26. So we should probably have a board meeting to discuss that, because that's where we are right now. So when would we hit that point to where you're saying we've already hit that point where we should have the discussion,
We should start having the discussions, yeah.
right?
I would wait until after the first year until we have our finalized values from the reappraisal, because that makes a big difference on what we would be looking at. So I would probably defer that till we have those, and usually get that like late December is when we get that.
Because you had figured 28%, but it could be 29%, and we don't know,
Right.
because the auditor hasn't given it to us yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten the final numbers yet, so.
And those numbers will come to us from the auditor when?
Typically, it's right around Christmas. We usually get what's called the Schedule A from the county.
So,
Sometimes it's a little before, sometimes it's after the first of the year, it just depends on.
so somewhere between a month, month and a half, we should have that number.
Yeah.
And then we should be able to clarify what our revenues are from that.
Correct.
And you're looking at a difference from what, 3 million to 3.2?
Yeah, it was approximately around there, yeah.
Okay, so it could be, but you were counting on 3 million in your forecast.
Yes,
And so if it goes to 3.2, we'd be getting 200,000 more per fiscal year,
correct.
calendar year, but ours is a fiscal year, so you report it as a fiscal year. And so that's probably not going to change when we have to go for an operating levy, but it will affect our numbers on the report.
Right.
Yeah. And so probably the best time then, after we have all the information and you're able to put a report together, would be, would you say the January meeting to discuss it?
Probably January, we'd probably have a good discussion in January, I would say.
Okay. And so I think we should probably put that on the agenda. Would it be a separate work session?
That'd probably be better to have a separate.
Because there's going to be a lot of discussion about it, right?
Right.
So, so let's put that on the agenda. Well, at the end of January, we will have a financial discussion as to when we are going to have to go to the people for an operating levy. Either way, we're going to have to go for an operating levy, right? No matter what we do.
I mean, it's school funding 101. At some point, it's, typically 3 to 5 years is the typical operating cycle in the state of Ohio. We're already at we're about 7.5 years from ours, so we're now deficit spending, so now you build cash the first few years, and you start declining cash, and that's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay, so what you're saying is we're actually a little bit ahead of the game, a little bit in a better situation, because normally you'd have to go every 5 years, but we're already at 7.
Correct. Part of that helped with, with the pandemic, had some, helped us stretch things out because we had premium holidays for insurance, and some of our
We
ESSER
deferred all
funding.
those dollars.
And then, now that we're hitting the 20 mil floor, there's a little bit of an influx there, a little bit of increase in our.
So explain that one to everyone in 5 minutes. Yeah.
It's very complicated to explain, so it's.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, I just think that it's very important that we have the dollars, and we have a great need, and we have a lot more great needs. We've had kids in trailers for 15 years, more than 15 years.
And
as
we're
I
not even
understand.
addressing that. We are not addressing that at all. We're not
So-
addressing it. That's not anywhere on any
So
of these
I
plans.
think that's gonna be discussed Thursday.
That is part of the Thursday discussion, is how do we address safety, security, and kind
Yeah.
of where do we go moving forward?
Right, so Thursday in the board meeting, there's gonna be a presentation.
A work session at the end.
Okay, so we're gonna do a work
We're doing a
session
work
at the
session,
end.
Yeah, it's gonna be more of a discussion than
Okay, but we're not addressing any of it, and none of that's included in any of these dollars, and you're not leaving any.
Not in this, and
You are
again.
not leaving any funds left to be able to address that. I think that's irresponsible of us.
So anyway, are you going to be presenting in the general meeting the 5-year facilities plan?
It will be in a work session format, so it's at the end of the meeting. So we'll do I think the first one is on board communications, and then how the process behind that, and the second one will be just kind of the draft of the facilities plan to take it with the goal to finalize it in December. From all four, I've got some feedback already, we're trying to add some things into it, and then kind of continuing that feedback for what the next step is. This is really, again, as you hear things and more, you're tweaking it again and again, because you can't do one without the other, and,
We have more needs than we
Yes.
have money.
That's always the case. So I think that's kind of one that we're looking at, where does operating fit in versus, where does, money for facilities, all that, because of anything we do,
So that'll be a work session,
it will be.
and we're starting the meeting at 7
We are,
because of the plan.
yes, there's very little, the special reports is just one. And then we'll get into the kind of meat and potatoes of the meeting, and then we'll have two kind of hopefully shorter. The facilities work session is kind of just a start to discuss to where the plan is going, and then we can bring it back up again in December with kind of a finalized, and hopefully have a vote on that.
Yeah, so, okay, but I think we're behind on the 5-year facilities plan, and it's, I believe that we probably need to have something in place in December, knowing what we're doing.
It will be, it will be up for the vote at that point, making sure that everyone is ready, so it'll be there for that December. And it was, judging by the timeline that came there, this is the month, December is a month behind. The Riverview thing did throw a little bit of a wrinkle into kind of where we're going with it, so we shifted a little bit, but it's, we're still on that time track from the initial.
Okay, so how long do you expect for the 5-year facilities plan?
For the work session?
Presentation and discussion, yeah.
There's basically, I've given the board the draft, so it's kind of discussing where they are. I've tried to meet with people ahead of time to kind of get their feedback. I would guess maybe a half hour. Probably a little bit longer, depending. It's gonna be a long meeting.
I'm thinking we're gonna
Yeah.
have, it's
Yeah.
gonna be, it's a big discussion.
It is. It's gonna be a long meeting. We're gonna have to have, I think, scheduling another meeting. I know that Mr. Degrassi's out of town after Thanksgiving to try to get another meeting. It'll be a challenge, so we're gonna try to hit some.
I think we have a work session on December 5th.
Mrs. Degrassi's out of town. So
Okay, well, we might still have it, because we might need to have it. So you won't be here, Ms. Gracie, on December 5th? Because we had that in the schedule, so we might still have to keep it. I mean, there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot that's going on, so.
It's not gonna matter, you don't need me in a meeting, because obviously we're not gonna, it's not gonna matter.
So we can have why don't we see where Thursdays goes and go from there?
Yeah, let's see where we are, and then
Yeah.
we can talk about whether we're having that December 5th. So I think it's important, but we'll talk about it. See what the board wants to do.
I'm back and
All right,
forth.
Rich, do you have anything else?
No, I do not. The only other item left was Riverview CMR, but I don't.
So Roger didn't get the request for proposals out until late last week, so we had to delay the timeline a little bit just to allow time for the 3 firms that were shortlisted to put their, to allow them time to ask questions and put their pricing proposal together. So we have a deadline to submit questions on November 25th with pricing due on December 2nd. Roger put that timeline together on his own, and so we'll have that pricing in early December, and we can discuss at the next Buildings and Grounds meeting, which is on the
17th.
17th.
Or we could actually address it if we have a meeting on the 5th.
As a full board, I guess we could, yeah.
Yeah, we could do it then if we needed to. So, Roger is saying for the CMR that it's probably not, is he saying it's important on timing or not urgent that we get it done sooner?
It's not urgent because it's more dependent on the design. So
Okay.
until something's designed, it's, the construction manager kind of.
So we can wait till the regular December meeting on it?
Correct.
We don't have to push that in?
Right.
Okay, so then Buildings and Grounds and then the meeting would be the normal progression?
Right.
And there's no issue with that time?
Our buildings and grounds is on the 17th, our board meeting's on the 19th, as I understand it.
Okay, well, then we'll stick to that schedule then.
Yeah, that should cause no issues, because until we have a schematic design from the architect, there's not much for the construction manager to price out, and so it's.
Okay, all right, so we can do that. Well, thank you for that.
Gary,
Okay.
can I ask a quick
Yeah,
question
sure.
on that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, excuse me. When we're designing that addition at Riverview, are we doing a committee structure? Like, are we talking about programming and classes that are gonna go in there and how we're gonna use that, or am I out? I guess is my question.
So,
Like, I don't know how that's working.
so I think
Yeah.
whatever your desires are, I think are important.
Right.
And-
Okay.
And I think that we should probably talk about that. And so, so let's talk about that. Let's get together and talk about that. I think the original thought was you would have kindergarten space below you'd have kindergarten with bathrooms in the rooms,
Okay.
okay? And I think at Riverview, is it the last 2 years, kindergarten's been 300 kids?
I would say the
No.
last couple, we're sitting right around 300
As a
in our
class,
elementary
district-wide.
classrooms.
District-wide,
Yeah,
Yes,
300.
Riverview's had 5 sections the last.
Okay, so that's what it is, 300, and then instead of 4, the way Riverview was built, it's 5 sections coming in the last 2 years. More stress on space, so if we create space with bathrooms in the rooms, right, that's what's ideal for little kids. And so that's the general idea, so let's talk about that.
Okay, I guess I didn't know, so when that
Yeah.
committee process starts, that you guys, because see, my gut would say, only build 2 of them with bathrooms in there, why would we build all of them, and we could use the 4, it would be cheaper. But then, you know what I mean, like, that's where my head goes.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about, because I think there's been an original rendering with bathrooms in 4.
Oh, okay, all right,
Okay, now, if there's bathrooms in 4 and you only need 2, the other ones don't matter, right? But if you need them, you really need them. It gives the flexibility.
yeah,
And that's why the $5 that Gary was talking about. So when you're, instead of $450, you're going to $500, it allows you to do what you need to do without overspending, having additional costs. But if we trim it down, we could go a little bit less on the cost.
okay, oh, so there's the rendering's already done, like the design's already done?
There's a rendering that has the 4 bathrooms
Linda?
in the
Drop your
4 classrooms.
ID.
Oh, okay, oh, I guess I didn't realize the drawing
You
was
may
already
not have
done.
gotten a
So the-
copy.
So the design is already done, so we
Well,
don't have to do that phase
not
of it?
100%.
Oh, okay.
But the rendering is done.
Okay,
And so that was passed out before, but maybe you didn't get a copy of it.
yeah, I missed a couple of buildings and grounds meetings from being in Columbus. so
Okay,
that
well,
may
you were
be-
probably
yeah.
not there.
Okay.
So, do you have, we're pretty much wrapped up.
That's fine,
right?
I have another meeting, but I know, if I can get it from those guys, I can at least take a look at it and then think about, I don't know that there's anything wrong with it, I just didn't realize the design was already
Gary,
done.
do you have a copy of that?
So,
I should have to.
yeah,
It's in my office.
Or, you
I
know,
think we, yeah.
Yeah.
just take a look at it.
I'll get it from them, that's
Okay.
fine, okay.
And if you have any thoughts, see, my thought is, if you need it, you should have it. If you don't need it and it's there, it doesn't hurt you.
Right, okay,
It just gives you flexibility.
all right. that
And,
sounds
and with
good.
the high number of kids, 300 coming in for kindergarten, pushing the 4 sections at Riverview to 5 sections 2 years in a row, it's likely it's gonna happen again. You're gonna have 5 sections instead of 4, 3 years in a row.
Well, 300 is not a high number. I mean, 300 is about 60 or 70 kids down per grade level, although it's higher at Riverview, it's not high for the district.
No, that's
you know
what I mean. Riverview is where
Okay.
most of them are flowing
Yeah.
into. So when you had the Heisley Park, those were flowing into Buckeye,
Mhm,
right? Now all the developments are flowing into Riverview.
Yeah,
It's almost like the worst case scenario. All the developments are flowing into one school.
I know, which is so strange, because our overall numbers are down, you know what I mean, like 50 to 60 kids at grade level, but yeah, but that's, okay, at least I know where I can look, so that
Yeah.
gives me a good, that's what I need to
Take a look at
understand.
that.
Okay,
I
I will
mean,
do
if
that.
you have any thoughts or ideas,
yeah,
let me know.
okay,
I mean, because it's not finalized.
okay,
You
okay,
know,
that's what I needed to know,
And you
okay.
need to make sure you have what you need.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
But what point do you want my input as far as mechanical?
I think, would you talk with TDA about that?
Okay.
Can you talk with Ryan Schmidt?
Yes, I can.
Should we get a meeting together at some point?
Probably should, yeah.
Probably should, to get everyone,
Get everyone on the same
yeah,
page?
like if you're talking.
When would you want to have that meeting?
I would think sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so, Rich, what would be good for you?
I'm flexible.
You're
I
flexible?
have vacation that I can move if I need to. I prefer not to, but
Well, when is your vacation?
the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay, so Thanksgiving's next week. What, today's Tuesday? So why don't we put something together? When is school out?
We are, so Tuesday is our day of kindness, so we're all kind of involved with that, so it's, we have the rest of this week and then Monday,
So maybe we can meet Monday,
I can see,
okay? Do you want to call Ryan?
I can call him.
Okay, And then, would we meet first thing in the morning?
I will see what his availability is.
See what his availability is. If we can meet first thing in the morning, it'd be better for me.
Okay.
And then, Rich, you're available anyway, right? And so, yeah, then you can have that discussion with them, and my guess is he's gonna say that that's future stuff, and there might not be a whole lot to talk about right now, until they get the work going. So, but it wouldn't hurt to sit down and at least talk about a few things, right? And at least have some expectation of what we're looking for in the future. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I'd like to know, equipment wise, if there's gonna be a mechanical room, what are we doing about HVAC, what are we doing about electrical? Are we gonna try to tie into the current heating and cooling system? Can it sustain what we're adding onto the building? What about the backup generator? What will be taking place within the physical building of the school that we currently have as far as how we're gonna be running items. I wanna know where we stand with our sewage system. These are the things the last thing I wanna do is see the district build this addition and we have different mechanical equipment, so that I'm dealing with two different types.
Right, so I think initial conversation, and then my suggestion is you would stay in contact with them, right? I mean, because you can call him at any time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's just have a general meeting, and then I would suggest at that point, you stay in touch with them,
Okay.
okay? Same with you, Melissa, I mean, there's absolutely no reason for anyone to be carved out. I mean, it's a whole team game. I mean, everyone's thoughts and ideas, you don't want anyone to not have what they need.
And that's what, it would be nice to, that it's just one meeting for Ryan, I agree with you, and then we can go from there, but to have, again, I guess I didn't realize that we were already
I can
kind
invite
of
Roger
designed.
as well.
Yeah, you probably weren't here.
Yeah, that must have been it.
I'll invite Roger.
And then, I mean, no one thought of.
Yeah, oh no, that's,
Yeah.
oh, I know, nobody thinks about curriculum. It's our thing, but it's the last thing anybody.
No, that's why we're doing it for curriculum. You can't, I mean, we need to have the space.
So,
We gotta
okay.
have the space.
All right, just keep me in the loop, we don't have anything that morning, we do have an 11:30 meeting that day, Chris, just to give you a heads up, we're doing that.
So Chris, you'll talk with him today?
Yeah, I'll see what Ryan can do, and I'll see if Roger's available too, just to kind of, because as we start to do some of the scope and the
Yeah.
bidding and all that, we want to be specific to what we
Yeah.
bid out.
And if Roger can't make it, let's still do it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
If Ryan's available, we'll still have it, but it's always nice to keep Roger abreast of what's going on.
I think that Roger has his team meetings Monday mornings,
Okay.
so he might not be available, but please ask him. Please let me know.
Yep.
All right, well,
Done.
good.
Edna?
Yep.
All right.